At my son's wedding, my sister's shocking words revealed her hidden struggles. You won't believe what happened next. The air was electric as Jake stood at the altar, a gleaming smile beaming across his face as he watched Emma stroll down the aisle, sunlight dancing on her white gown. This was a dream come true, and the tiny town they grew up in buzzed with excitement. Friends and family gathered, their hearts swelling with joy. But beneath the surface of this picturesque wedding, unseen tensions brewed, waiting for their moment. Jake's sister, Maria, stood a few rows back, the vibrant colors of her dress contrasting sharply with her somber expression. She was the family's unseen glue, the one who had always sacrificed, pouring hours into caring for her parents and supporting Jake, yet her talents as an artist faded into the background, unnoticed. On what should have been one of the happiest days, her chest tightened with the weight of unacknowledged dreams. As the vows were exchanged under a flawless blue sky, Maria felt her heart clash with the family's expectations. She wanted to cheer for her brother, she truly did, but the ache of feeling unheard gnawed at her. Maybe today wouldn't just be a celebration. Maybe it could be a reckoning. As the reception unfolded amidst laughter and dancing, Maria kept glancing at her brother and his bride, who were shining stars of the night. Then, it happened. She rose, heart pounding, to give a toast. The clinking of glasses fell silent under the spell of her earnestness. "I love you both," she began, her voice wavering with emotion. "But I can't help feeling like a ghost in my own family." Gasps rippled through the crowd. She continued, each word cutting deeper. "I've dedicated my life to supporting you all, but what about my dreams? The art gets ignored. I feel trapped." She painted a vivid picture of her unrealized passions and how they lay dormant under the weight of family obligations. Before she could finish, the air thickened with tension. "That's not fair." Her mother snapped, face flushed. "Every family needs a backbone, Maria. Art is just a hobby." Maria's heart sank. The word struck like a punch, igniting a fire under the seemingly joyful celebration. "Hobby?" Maria shot back, voice rising. "What I create matters. Just because it doesn't bring in money." The atmosphere shifted. What started as laughter turned to uncomfortable whispers. Guests exchanged nervous glances, and the clamor of festivities faded. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With Maria's words still echoing, family tensions surfaced, spinning an even harsher web of expectations. Jake stood frozen, watching emotions crack like ice beneath the weight of unvoiced struggles. The love that filled the room moments ago now felt fragile, teetering on a precipice. As Maria's honesty hung in the air, a door of understanding creaked open. Uncertainty loomed, but it was clear the night was more than a wedding. It was a reflection of unspoken dreams and desires. As Jake and Emma took their first dance, blissfully unaware of the emotional storm brewing just a few feet away, Maria stood on the sidelines, heart torn. Would her family finally see her? Or would her raw vulnerability drive them further apart? The evening buzzed with laughter and music, but for Maria, that hope felt as distant as her art. In the dim light, she pondered whether she'd ever find the recognition and love she desperately craved. The silence after Maria's words felt like a heavy blanket draped over the reception. The laughter had not just faded, it had almost evaporated, leaving only whispers rustling through the air. Jake's grip on Emma tightened, his head snapping toward his sister, confusion etched across his face. What had just happened? His wedding day, supposed to be a perfect celebration, had taken an unexpected, chaotic turn. Every eye was now on Maria, who stood centered among the crowd, her heart racing. She could feel the weight of their gazes, each one a mix of surprise and discomfort. She swallowed hard, and for a split second, doubts crept in. Had she crossed a line? Was this really the time and place for her to voice her fears? Emma's hand slipped into Jake's as they exchanged glances, their joy now tainted with uncertainty. I just want to be seen. Maria continued, her voice trembling but resolute. I want to share my art, to breathe life into it. But every time I try, I hear silence. She felt the heat rising in her chest, a mix of defiance and desperation. Maria wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for every moment she had put on hold. The guests shifted in their seats, some visibly uncomfortable, while others looked to Jake as if seeking his guidance. Could he repair the rift opened on what should have been a night of joy? Maria, Jake started, his brow furrowed, it's not how this should go. Not today. His tone was a mix of confusion and concern, but it struck a nerve. Maria's heart sank at his words. Whose day was it, really? His or hers? Yes, today is special for you, Maria countered, ignoring the hints of hurt in his eyes. But isn't family about supporting each other's dreams? Why do mine have to take a back seat? Jake opened his mouth, but no words came out. He glanced at Emma, who was watching them with wide, worried eyes. Maria pressed on, feeling buoyed by her own courage. I want to paint. I want to create. I deserve that chance, too. Suddenly, a voice broke through the tension, a young cousin, who had often looked up to Maria for her passion for art. I get it, Maria. You inspire me. You always have. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, and what had felt like a suffocating silence began to transform. Some guests nodded, others quietly joined in, sharing their own dreams that had been swallowed by obligations. It was as if a dam had broken, allowing sentiments to rush forth unrestrained. Maria felt a swell of hope. As the music momentarily dimmed, Maria caught a glimpse of her parents, staring with equal parts shock and worry. Their expressions spoke volumes, and uncertainty filled their eyes. They had always pushed her towards stability instead of embracing her dreams. Would they ever understand? The pulse of the night changed. Maria sensed it, the collective energy shifting. You know, she added softly, celebrating my art doesn't take away from your happiness, Jake. We can all shine in our own ways. Jake finally took a step toward her. I didn't mean to push you away. It's just I wish you'd told me sooner. Tensions hung like unseen threads connecting them. Maria felt fragile yet empowered, standing in a moment that seemed to define her future. What would it take for her family to embrace her dream? As the sky darkened outside, sparks flew from the patio lights illuminating the scene. Sensing the fragile momentum, Maria wondered what would happen next. Would this be the turning point for her and her family? Or would silence reign once more? All eyes were now on her, and the air was ripe with anticipation. Would she find the courage to keep speaking her truth? Or would the weight of expectations silence her again? Jake took a deep breath, the air heavy with the unspoken words hovering around them. He scanned the faces of the guests, each one telling their own silent story. Some wore looks of confusion, others a mixture of empathy and concern. The music had faded, and all that filled the space was the rhythmic pounding of Maria's heartbeat against the chaos of the moment. Listen, Jake said, his voice hoarse yet determined, if you need to talk about your art, let us talk. Maria blinked back unexpected tears. I don't want to just talk, Jake. I want you all to understand. I want to create, to be celebrated for what I love doing. Is that so wrong? Emma squeezed Jake's hand tighter, sensing his internal conflict. No, Maria. It's not wrong. Her voice, soft yet supportive, pierced through the tension, earning her glances from both sides. We all love you, and we want you to be happy. But maybe what? Maria interrupted, her voice trembling. Maybe it's not the time. Because it feels like you all want me to put my dreams on hold, again. An uncomfortable hush settled in again, and the party guests shuffled in their seats. Maria's outburst had unveiled deeper truths, yet it also lay bare the fragility of this moment. Her parents exchanged worried glances, as if navigating a riptide threatening to pull them under. Then, from the back, an elderly aunt piped up, I think we often forget how important it is to chase after what makes us whole. Don't we owe it to ourselves to shine? A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Taking a step back, Maria felt the shift. The unwavering support around her began to feel less like a beacon and more like an awakening. It was a chance not just for her, but for everyone in that room to reflect on their suppressed dreams. Could they all find their voice tonight? Maybe we can all share our dreams, Emma suggested eagerly, glancing nervously at Jake. Throw some light on what we've held back in silence. It's a celebration, right? Jake's shoulders relaxed slightly as he processed her words. He ran a hand through his hair, visibly torn between wanting to maintain his romantic day and supporting his sister. I just want everyone to feel good tonight, he said slowly. But I also want you to be happy. What do you need from me, Maria? I need you to listen. Support me like I've supported you, she replied, her voice quietly imploring. I don't want to feel invisible anymore. A heavy weight lifted in the air as guests shifted forward in their seats, intrigued by the idea of embracing vulnerabilities. Let us create a space, someone else offered. Let us make this a moment where we can bring those dreams back to life. Maria couldn't believe it. The tension unraveled, creating an openness she once thought impossible. She looked to Jake, who was slowly nodding, his expression softening. All right, then, he said, the cracks in their connection starting to seal with understanding. Let us find a way to celebrate us together. The guests began to share stories, each one echoing Maria's fears, dreams of what they had all once wished to pursue. Laughter intertwined with tears as they realized they were not alone. For Maria, it was cathartic. She felt seen, heard, and perhaps, for the first time, celebrated for her individuality. But just as the air filled with newfound energy, her parents stood up, drawing attention. We need to talk, her mother said, her voice steady but laced with emotion. Maria's heart sank. Was this a step forward or back? As her mother locked eyes with her, the weight of unsaid things loomed larger than before. We've been holding back too. Maria held her breath, waiting for the next reveal. What truths would emerge? How would her family respond in this turning moment? The night was far from over, and tensions crackled like static electricity in the humid air. Maria's heart raced as her mother continued, her voice trembling with the fear of unearthing secrets long buried. We've kept quiet, Maria. For too long, we've been trying to fit into molds that just don't suit us. We thought we were doing the right thing, protecting you by shielding you from our own struggles. The guests leaned in closer, the air thick with anticipation. Maria's mind spun, trying to comprehend where this conversation was headed. Her mother's confession rippled through the crowd, creating a sense of shared vulnerability. Her father, looking somber yet resolute, chimed in, we didn't realize it until tonight. We thought we had to be strong, that admitting our flaws would somehow dampen your spirit. But, we see now that showing our struggles might instead give you the courage to pursue your dreams. Maria's throat tightened, emotions swirling inside her. You've always been my role models. How could you feel that way? The depth of her parents' pain shocked her, and she felt a kinship with their hidden battles. It's not easy for us, her mother replied, tears brimming in her eyes. We've given up pieces of ourselves so we could provide for you, so we could show you the safe way to live. But sometimes the safe path robs us of who we really are. Sometimes it becomes a weight we can no longer bear. The room felt heavy with understanding, the guests sharing glances, their own stories ignited by this revelation. An uncle spoke up, I remember giving up my own dream of becoming a musician because I thought it wouldn't pay the bills. And it's haunted me ever since. As more guests began sharing their own struggles, Maria realized how isolation often clouded their hearts. Each story was like a tiny spark igniting the room, illuminating fears and aspirations held back for too long. Jake, now fully in tune with the atmosphere, stood up. We've all been hiding. Let us not hide anymore. Tonight, it's not just my wedding. It's a celebration of our true selves. The crowd erupted in applause, the courage wafting around like a warm breeze. Maria's spirit soared, buoyed by recognition and support. She looked at her brother, gratitude swelling in her chest. At that moment, Maria realized this wasn't just about her art or her dreams anymore. This was bigger, a collective effort to shatter silence. Sharing dreams, sharing fears, it was all tied together in a fabric of humanity, raw and unfiltered. Just then, her mother cleared her throat again, taking a deep breath as if to steady herself. Maria, you need to know something. The reason we never encouraged your creativity was not just fear, but because we didn't believe in ourselves enough to believe in you. The room held its breath, the weight of her mother's words settling over them like a soft blanket unexpectedly woven from threads of vulnerability and love. As Maria processed the truth, she sensed a lightness replacing the heaviness around them. Their collective honesty began to reshape the atmosphere, and a renewed energy pulsed in the air, a promise of healing. Then, as one voice rose above the rest, a cousin called out, "So what are we going to do next? Let us break these barriers down once and for all." The air buzzed with excitement and a touch of uncertainty. Maria felt the tug at her heartstrings, urging her to take lead. A mix of dread and exhilaration coursed through her, but just before she could respond, the door swung open, and an unexpected guest entered, their arrival marking a pivot in the night that no one anticipated. How would this new presence alter the celebration? The night was just beginning to unfold. The door creaked, and silence enveloped the room. All eyes turned towards the entrance as a figure stepped inside. It was Aunt Clara, her usually vibrant presence dulled, face shadowed with uncertainty. Maria felt a pang of surprise and concern. Aunt Clara hadn't spoken to the family in months, keeping her distance after a bout of heated disagreements. "What is she doing here?" Maria murmured to Jake, but he merely shook his head, equally puzzled. Clara glanced around the crowd, her gaze lingering on Maria's parents. There was tension in her shoulders, a quiet desperation in her eyes. "I'm sorry for interrupting," Clara said, her voice tremulous yet unwavering. "I know this isn't my place, but I needed to come." Everyone seemed to hold their breath. Maria could feel the uncertainty in the air, thick and palpable. With each step her aunt took, the unshared words of years past seemed to drift alongside her. "Maria, I need you to listen," Clara began, her eyes locking onto Maria's. "I've always admired your creativity, your passion. But it took me too long to realize I was holding onto my own dreams because I feared what others would think. I've buried my own love for painting under the weight of expectations." Maria felt her heart race again, surprised by the sudden honesty. Aunt Clara continued, "I watched your mother and father struggle, and while I thought I was being supportive by staying away, I was really just hiding. I thought maybe living a perfect life would save us all from feeling disappointed." As Clara spoke, a collective sigh seemed to spill from the guests, her words weaving through the fabric of the room, a confession made weighty by years of silence. "Tonight is about breaking those cycles," Clara declared, her voice growing stronger. "We can't continue pretending. I want to paint again, to share that part of me with you all. Forgive me for being absent." A ripple of murmurs spread, a mixture of surprise and understanding. Maria could feel her chest tightening, overwhelmed by the stories around her, intertwined with love and regret. Before she could process everything, Jake stood beside her, no longer just her brother, but a partner in this moment. "Aunt Clara, we're all hiding in one way or another. Whatever burden you've been carrying is shared by many of us here tonight. Let us unload them together, right now." Laughter and cheers followed, fueling a new momentum. Maria's heart soared. Clara's revelation had sparked something. People began to share their fears again, these stories dancing through the air like fireflies in the night, illuminating their collective struggles, and suddenly, Clara looked at Maria with intense hope. "Can we create something together? I want to show you that it's never too late to embrace our true selves." Maria felt the gales of possibilities swirling around her. They could create something beautiful, something honest. But she couldn't shake a nagging worry. Would diving into their dreams break them apart again, or bring them closer? Just then, the lights flickered, briefly casting the room into darkness. Gasps echoed, anticipation crackling like static. And with that darkness came the thought, what else would be revealed with the dawn? Would they emerge stronger, or crumble under the weight of their truths? The night was still unfolding, and Maria's heart was caught at the brink of a revelation yet to come. The darkness enveloped the room like a shroud, a hush falling upon the crowd. Seconds felt like hours as everyone waited for the lights to return. Maria could hear her heart hammering in her chest, an anxious rhythm that matched the tense atmosphere. She glanced at Jake, who looked equally restless, his fingers tapping nervously against his leg. Then, just like that, the lights flickered back to life, illuminating the faces in the room. Clara stood there, a mixture of fear and hope on her expression. The light shimmered in her eyes, as if reflecting the vulnerability she had just laid bare. "Let us break this cycle," she repeated, her voice stronger now. "I want us to create tonight." Maria felt a rush of warmth at her aunt's words. They had the chance to turn years of silence into something meaningful, to forge a bond that had felt fractured for too long. But how would they start? Doubts loomed, yet a fire ignited within her. Could their collective dreams reshape their relationship and mend the broken pieces that had left scars? "Maybe we could riff off each other's stories," Maria suggested, her voice a shaky whisper but filled with passion. "Like a living tapestry of our experiences." "I love that," Clara responded, her eyes brightening. "It's time we turn our pain into art." The crowd, waking from its trance, began whispering excitedly. Suddenly, it felt like a collaborative symphony about to unfold. Each person had a part to play, a hidden story waiting to be told. Maria saw her mother standing at the edge of the gathering, her posture stiff. Her father scratched his head as whispers broke out around them. "They needed this too, didn't they?" "Mom, Dad," Maria called out, breaking the spell of uncertainty. "Your stories matter. We all have something to add. Let us open up." Her father hesitated, glancing at her mother before stepping forward, his expression softening. "There are things we haven't discussed, decisions we made out of fear of disappointing you. We can share too." Maria felt a spark of joy and relief. They were ready to move past the hurt. Clara's vulnerability had opened a door, and now the family was stepping into the light together. As they began sharing, the room filled with raw stories. A former painter, her father spoke of how abandoning his own dreams affected him. Maria's mother shared how her love for baking had dimmed amidst all the duties. Each confession was like a brushstroke on the canvas they were creating. Tears glistened, laughter erupted, and something magical emerged from the rawness of their truths. Maria looked at Clara, who beamed with pride. In that moment, they were bound not by their struggles but by the courage to face them. But just as the energy peaked, Maria felt a surge of doubt. What if sharing this vulnerability exposed them to deeper wounds? What truths lay beneath the surface that could tear them apart instead of bring them together? A sudden commotion from the back of the room interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Someone had pushed through the crowd, and laughter turned into gasps of shock. All heads turned to the door as a new figure entered, someone unexpected, and that someone held a revelation that would change everything. Maria's heart sank as she recognized the face, her breath caught in her throat. What would this intrusion mean for their moment of healing? Would they emerge from the past's shadow, or would it all unravel once more? Maria's heart raced as she stared at the doorway, her pulse vibrating in her ears. The figure pushing through the crowd was her estranged brother, Tom. He had left years ago, leaving behind a chasm of hurt and confusion. The weight of his absence had been heavy, even as everyone moved forward. Despite it, that he seemed different, though a little more rugged, a little more worn. But the essence of Tom was still there, the boy she once idolized, the brother she had lost. As the whispers of the crowd grew, she felt Clara's hand tighten around hers. "Why is he here?" Jake's voice was barely above a whisper, his brow furrowing. Maria had no answer. Tom's voice cut through the murmurs, deep and hesitant. Every eye was on him now, and the energy shifted again, anxiety draping over the warmth that had just begun to envelop them. "I know this isn't how I should have come back," he started, his gaze skimming the crowd, landing finally on her. "But I needed to speak with you all. It's important." Maria's mind spun. Important? What could he possibly want after all this time? Clara stepped forward, a protective energy radiating from her. You owe us an explanation, Tom, she called, her tone both demanding and forgiving. He swallowed hard, glancing back at the people he had abandoned. I know I hurt you all by leaving. I truly believed it was for the best. I thought I'd spare you the pain of watching me struggle. He paused, his voice cracking. But I realize now that running away only deepened our wounds. Maria felt an ache in her chest as layers of resentment peeled away. His words were a mirror to her own struggles, the unspoken fears that had haunted her since he left. I've been through a lot, Tom continued. I ended up in places that, well, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But I found help. I learned about myself. I learned about you all. And I realized I need to make this right. A flicker of hope sparked in Maria's heart. Could he be sincere? Could this be a chance to rebuild what had been lost? But Clara's expression shifted subtly. This isn't just about you coming back, she said, her voice steadier than before. It's about owning your part in this family's pain. We each have baggage to carry. Tom nodded slowly, the weight of Clara's truth settling in the air. I'm ready to share my struggles. I guess I thought this was the best place to start. What does that even mean? Maria interjected, her voice quaking with emotion. Are you saying you want to dive into this now? After so long? I want to face my fears, he admitted, taking a deep breath. Can you help me with that? The moment hung between them, a fragile thread connecting past and future. Maria glanced around at the faces of her family. Her mother looked hopeful but wary, her father's eyes gleamed with unshed tears. Tom's presence loomed large, and with it came the urgency of healing that had eluded them for years. Would they accept him back? Would the fragile tapestry they began weaving tonight withstand this new challenge? Maria felt it all swirl together, a knot of longing, fear, and the desire for healing. As she stepped forward, each heartbeat resonated with uncertainty but also a budding strength. But then the lights flickered again. A loud crash echoed from behind the gathered crowd, derailing the moment entirely. Fear washed over the room, pulling them back into darkness just as they were beginning to emerge from it. Who or what had just entered to disrupt them again? What new obstacle awaited as they teetered on the brink of reconciliation? The room plunged into chaos, bodies shifting as fearful whispers filled the air. Maria's heart pounded like a drum, drowning out the sudden confusion. What was that? Jake shouted, voice straining as he stood protectively in front of Clara. The light stuttered, flickering just before an overhead fixture crashed to the ground, sending shards of glass skittering across the floor like anxious little confetti. Stay back. Tom surged forward, instinctively positioning himself in front of Maria and Clara. The protective brother instinct was flaring back to life, but Maria couldn't help feeling the tension between fear and something deeper, a flicker of the bond they once shared. Everyone, please. Their mother's voice cut through the panic, a beacon of restraint amid the storm. Let us just take a breath, we'll figure this out. As the crowd edged toward the exit, Maria felt a nagging sense of disbelief. Could Tom's return truly be leading to healing? Or had fate thrown yet another wrench into the fabric of their family? Tom, she whispered, stepping closer to him as the crowd surged toward the doors, we may have to deal with this later. No, he replied, his voice firm despite the tremors in his hands. Something is off. We shouldn't flee. I came here to face my past, and I want to be scared away again. His words wrapped around Maria's heart like a lifeline. Maybe this was the moment they needed to confront everything, the echoes of their shared childhood, the pain of separation, the fear of opening old wounds. Stay close, he added, glancing at her, a fierce sincerity in those familiar eyes. Just then, a figure stumbled into view, emerging from the crowd, someone Maria had never expected to see. Amanda, the family friend and neighbor, looked disheveled and panicked, her hair frizzed and eyes wide. Tom. She gasped, and it seemed as if time halted. You need to leave. They're coming. Tom's eyes darkened, a shadow crossing his features. Who's coming? What are you talking about? They found me. Amanda cried, her breath hitching with fear. The people from the place you left, they know you're here. You have to run. A cold wave washed over Maria. The chaos of the moment seemed to shift, becoming less about their family reunion and more about a hidden danger lurking just beyond the walls. The air thickened, panic setting in both in Amanda's tone and the shifting crowd. Run? Tom echoed incredulously. No. I want to run from this. Maria's voice trembled, fearing the weight of his unresolved past. Maybe we should know. He interrupted, a fierceness igniting in him. I have to face this. We have to face this. But in his determination, Maria could see the shadows of doubt creeping back into his eyes. Was this the real test? The challenge of not only facing the family he had abandoned but also the demons he thought he'd left behind? As the crowd edged toward the exits, the tension buzzed like electricity, and Maria's heart felt heavy yet hopeful. The moment teetered on a knife's edge. Would they work together to confront whatever was coming, or would fear drive them apart once more? Behind them, the entrance doors slammed shut as if closing the chapter on their opportunity to run. Would they seize this moment together, or would it slip from their grasp forever? The air felt thick with uncertainty, and as they all braced for the unknown, Maria realized one truth: sometimes love means standing firm in the midst of fear. But for how long could they stand there together? And what would happen if they couldn't confront the truth staring them in the face? The sounds of chaos faded for a brief moment, replaced by a tension that threatened to explode in the crowded room. Tom's resolute stance clashed with Maria's fluttering anxiety as she took a step back, her pulse racing. She felt the weight of the decision hanging in the air. Was he putting them all in danger by refusing to leave? Tom, Amanda pleaded, her body quaking with desperation, we can't stay. They'll come for you. I barely escaped. Tom flicked his gaze toward Amanda, and in that moment, Maria saw his defenses crumble slightly. Was it fear behind those eyes? Or was it the resolve to protect not just himself, but everyone around him? She could feel that old connection they had, a bond forged in childhood, now fraught with uncertainty and hope. Let us think about this, Jake interjected, still guarding Clara and trying to maintain control. If you're really in danger, we should find a way out. We can regroup somewhere safe. No. Tom's voice rang out. Running won't solve anything. I can't keep hiding. They're not going to let me go. A murmur rippled through the crowd as the gathered family members took a step back, their eyes darting toward the exits. The uncertainty that hung heavy soon developed into an unmistakable fear, palpable enough to be felt like a chill in the air. Maria noticed Clara's wide eyes, filled with unshed tears, her little sister struggling with the weight of what might come next. Tom, please. Maria reached for his arm, an instinctive gesture of support that felt both familiar and foreign. We have to think about everyone here. Then let them fight with me. He was fervent now, his gaze sweeping across the room, as if searching for allies among their frightened relatives. I won't back down. Not again. In that moment, Maria's heart ached. Could he really mean it? But a flash of doubt crossed her mind. If they all remained here, would they become collateral damage in Tom's fight? The air thickened again, a hushed desperation settling over them like an unwanted blanket. Amanda's breathing grew more erratic, as if the very walls held their breath in anticipation. You have to trust me on this. If they found me, it's only a matter of time before they trace me back to you. I want to let them. Tom shouted, his voice growing more strained. I want to let them hurt any of you. The last words slipped from his lips like a revelation, igniting the crowd. Maria felt it, the flicker of familial loyalty igniting inside her, the same spirit that had held them together through years of lost connection. Then let us face this together, she said, trying to project strength she didn't fully feel. If you're willing to confront your past, we can stand with you. But we need a plan. We can't just wait for them to show up. As she spoke, a spark ignited in Tom's eyes, and he nodded slowly. The fight that had looked like desperation turned into something else entirely: determination, burning bright and fierce. Okay, he breathed, relief flooding his voice. Let us do this together. Just then, a figure appeared in the doorway, a tall silhouette shadowed by the harsh light from the hallway. Tension rose suffocatingly as everyone turned their heads toward an unmistakable danger. Fear washed over Maria, and she felt a shiver race down her spine. Was this the confrontation they had braced for? Would they finally learn the truth about Tom's past, or was this only the beginning of something darker? As the figure stepped forward into the light, Maria prepared herself for what was next, while her heart battled between trepidation and the hope for a resolution they so desperately sought. What secrets would be unveiled, and how would it change them? The figure stepped into the room, the overhead lights casting a harsh glow against the stark fabric of a worn coat. Maria's heart dropped as the familiar face emerged. Henry, the man from Tom's past, stood there with a menacing glint in his eyes. The silence was a living thing, constricting their breath as disbelief colored the air. It felt as if they were all paused in time, suspended in a moment high with tension. "Tom," Henry called out, a mockery layered beneath his words, "I hear you've come back to play hero. Did you really think you could just run away and everything would be fine?" Tom's jaw tightened, resolve flooding his veins. "I'm not the same person I was, Henry. I want to let you dictate my life anymore." The guests shifted uncomfortably, backing into each other, their hesitation resurrecting the fear that had just begun to dissipate. Maria felt the stomach-churning weight of the situation pressing down on her. They had stepped back into the shadows of their shared past, a past that threatened to swallow them whole again. "You think you can stand up to me?" Henry sneered, taking a menacing step forward. "You're just a kid in a man's body still running. But this time, you're not alone, are you?" Maria took a step closer to Tom, her instincts kicking in. "You're wrong, Henry. We're not going anywhere without a voice. You don't define us." "Ah, the little ghost with a big mouth wants to play too." He chuckled darkly, and the guests murmured, eyes darting between them, seeking safety in numbers. Tom turned, the flicker of panic giving way to raw determination. "Listen," he said, his voice steady, "if there's one thing I've learned, it's that running doesn't make me weak. It made me realize the importance of the people I left behind." Maria watched as clarity washed over his features, a connection forming just as enduring as the bonds they'd broken. "And you know what? I'm not backing down this time. My family will stand with me. All of you." Tom's voice rose, gripping tighter on the courage to confront his past. The room felt electric, a gathering storm brewing in the glow of shared resolve. Maria felt warmth spread in her chest, pushing out the chill that had crept in. "Tom's right. We can face this together." Support surged forward as the guests nodded, slowly forming a collective shield around Tom. It was life-affirming to see the shift. Each person present recognized that they had been battling their own demons, and now they were ready to unite their strength. "That's it," Jake chimed in, standing alongside Maria, fists clenching with newfound bravery. "This isn't just about Tom, it's about all of us. We've each hushed our hearts long enough." A cousin added resolutely, "We can show them we're stronger together." A chorus of agreement echoed, infusing the room with renewed confidence. Henry hesitated, taut with the realization that he was no longer facing off against a single person but an entire family willing to fight. The power shifted, becoming palpable, uniting them in a brilliant, unyielding force. "Think you can take us all on, Henry?" Maria challenged, letting her inner strength unfurl. "We've all faced our fears tonight, and there's no place for you here anymore." Caught between the uprising spirit of the family and his mounting tension, Henry's facade began to crack. "You think this will end today?" "I'll always find a way," he spat, retreating slightly as the sheer force of their connection began to repel him. "Not anymore," Tom said firmly, stepping toward Henry, grounding himself in the reality of his family's support. "We've come too far, none of us will break for you again." The crowd swelled with affirmation as they interlaced their arms, a human chain defiant against the storm. Henry's bravado wavered. He had lost his power against a united front, and he knew it. With one final, furious glare, he backed away. "I'll be watching, Tom." "You can count on that," he said before he turned and slipped back into the shadows, the tension that had weighed so heavily moments before gave way to an overwhelming sense of relief. The crowd erupted in voices, laughter replacing the remnants of fear that had once woven through them. Tom turned back to face his family, eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, all of you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't deserve your support, but it means everything." Maria stepped forward, allowing the warmth of connection to infuse her as tears shimmered in her eyes. "This is just the beginning. We're reclaiming our lives, Tom. Together." Slowly, their family drew closer, tears of joy replaced despair, and they formed a stronger bond than before. They had faced the shadows, stood up for each other, and emerged victorious, bursting forth into a brighter future. As laughter bubbled and camaraderie flowed, Maria caught her brother's eye, the subtle acknowledgement shimmering between them. They would not let the past define them. That night, the air lifted with celebration, arts and dreams, ambitions unshackled, a family reborn. They all shared their truths, and in doing so, crafted new connections that could not be broken. "Hey," Jake called out through the joyful din, "let us keep sharing. It's time to paint a new picture together." Everyone cheered, their voices ringing out. The celebration transformed, not just of a wedding, but a rebirth from shadows to light, from silence to voice. And in that moment, Maria understood. They had forged a bond that was true and lasting, rooted in love and acceptance. This was their moment, unseen dreams ignited, together, now. Don't wait not even one more second. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it really makes a difference to us. Comment your reactions and feelings about this heartfelt ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show your support. Let us keep this incredible community growing.